A huge game awaits us on Thursday night against the Fremantle Dockets. Let's talk about it. Before we jump into this preview, thank you so much to Swish for sponsoring their channel. Now, with Swish, if you don't know, you can jump onto their website, get any sort of AFL player to give you a shout out, but especially Collingwood players, Jack Crisp, Scott Pendlebury, Nick Dacos, the absolute GOAT amongst so many more. Use the link down below in the information to get 10% off, or at checkout, use code Swoop Luke. There's going to be Mother's Day this week, so make sure you get them in now so you don't miss out, and get your mum one of her favourite Collingwood players to wish her a shout out. But Swish, thank you so much for jumping on board. Now, let's get into this preview. A preview after a loss is different. I haven't had to do one for 6 or so weeks, but we take on the Dockers on Thursday night in Perth, and it's a 5-day break or thereabouts, and it is going to be all eyes on us. It's prime time Thursday night. Collingwood coming off a heartbreaking loss. Fremantle getting absolutely dismantled, disfremantled, if you will. I won't, by St Kilda. So they are going to want to bounce back. And it seems that whenever Collingwood play a team, no matter who it is, the week before they either have a really good win or a really bad loss. And you know, we faced Geelong after a really bad loss to the Blues. We faced Fremantle after an absolute mauling against St Kilda. So, you know, on their home turf, Freo can't travel, right? They play poorly on the road, but at Optus, they are bullies there, right? So it is going to be an absolutely hard game, an incredible game. If we can get the win here, I was going to say it sets up the season. It doesn't really set up the season. We're 6-2, and if you had told me at the start of the year, 6-2 after the Geelong game, or at round 8, I would have taken that hands down. I think I had us at like 3-3 or thereabouts, or not 3-3, 3-4 thereabouts, or 4-3. But 6-2 is insane, and now we take on a Fremantle side that, you know, I even had them as top 4, and a lot of pundits had them as top 4 and improving, but they just haven't got any better. They're pretty much stagnated at the moment, and we know that they are going to come out and play this game like it's their absolute grand final. Now, from what I'm hearing from people sort of in the know telling me, and what's being sort of reported, there could be up to 4 or 5 changes to the Collingwood side to take on Fremantle, remembering that it is a 5-day break, short turnaround, really hard game. In that game against Geelong, we were sort of managing the minutes of our older players. What I'm hearing, and you know, this was prior to the Geelong game, is that Steele Sidebottom, Scott Pendlebury, Myercheck, and Degoe were all going to be rested. But now you can probably add Braden Maynard to that list, because Josh Gabelich on SEN, and someone slid into my DMs to tell me about this as well, was that Braden Maynard was going to be a close late out against Geelong. He had some scans, went for scans this morning as well. So I don't know if they're going to risk him. We've built up enough wins where we probably can rest some of these older players, because then we've got that 9-day break into a really big game against the Crows, who are pretty much premiership contenders at the moment, because they are playing really, really good football. So expect 5 changes. Also expect Charlie West to debut, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, about what the team could possibly look like. But a Charlie West debut, this kid has been kicking butts in the VFL. I think he scored 11 goals from his first few matches. Was rested on the weekend against Footscray. Footscray absolutely destroyed us, so he would have probably not done anything that well anyway, because there wasn't a lot of ball going up into our 50. So they rested him. They rested Sullivan. They rested Allen. They rested Oleg Markov, and expect Jeremy Howe to jump in as well. So wholesale changes, and I think that's why this game is pretty much a free hit. And I know I've said that the last few weeks, but against Brisbane, I said it was a free hit. Against Geelong, I said it was a free hit. Smashed Brisbane, could have beaten Geelong if we had taken our chances. And now this Fremantle game, what we get to see is, now this is going to make me cry, but what we get to see is a Collingwood team without without both of Steele Sidebottom and Scott Pendlebury, and seeing what that looks like. If Ed Allen wants to make his mark as a Collingwood player or as a AFL footballer, this is the game for him. I dare say he's not going to be the sub. He is going to get full midfield minutes. And when he's played full midfield, we've seen how good he can be. He's been smashing it in the VFL. Same as Lockie Sullivan. Oleg Markov will probably come in to replace Braden Maynard. So that's going to be really, really interesting to see what we sort of look like lining up without two of our big guys. And it's not like they've had mediocre seasons. They've both had really good seasons, probably better than their 2023 seasons. Still, Sidebottom is a smoky to win the Copeland as it stands right now. We'll poll a bunch of Brownlow votes at the start of the year. So not having Pendles and not having Sidebottom is going to change the dynamic of the club, or for that game anyway. And it'll be a good test to see where do we stand when these players start retiring. And that's the same with Brody Mychek as well. Brody Mychek is 31, 32. Maybe I'm dating him. Maybe he's 30. Anyway, 30s, right? Charlie West is the next guy up. Pick 50 from South Australia. He should have gone higher. From what I've been seeing and from what you guys have been seeing, training and stuff, this guy looks like a young Jonathan Brown. He is built like a brick house. And I would love to see him kick a couple of goals on debut, on the big stage, and just see how he works in tandem with like a Membry and an Elliott. And this guy is going to be our future. You get another young forward lining up next to him, whether that's Riley Mason or whether it's someone that we sort of draft in or trade in. This guy is going to be finally our full forward that we've been crying out for in a draft for the last 10 or so years. So we finally get to see what he looks like at the big time. I always compare him to Logan Morris and what Logan Morris did for the Lions coming in last year. Charlie West could be that guy. Now, the game itself. Fremantle got decimated in the clearances, in the middle, inside 50s. St Kilda absolutely pulled them apart. And I know for a fact that those coaches, McRae, probably not Lepper, but McRae and Skipworth and Selwood and Ruffy, they're going to be looking at that tape of what St Kilda did to Fremantle for us to sort of replicate. And it all comes down to pressure, and St Kilda just took all of their opportunities going forward. And there's no reason why we can't do that. I know or up to 5 changes sounds like a big thing, and like, we're taking a VFL side up there, but we've still got a really, really good team. The 23 going in, if those 5 changes are to happen, I don't know what it sort of looked like after a loss. But if those 5 wholesale changes are to happen, it's going to be interesting to see what we look like. On paper, we still look very, very, very good. So you would think, West will line up with a Mason Cox, with a Membry, and, Mason Cox would chop out the ruck with Darcy Cameron because he's going to be taking on Luke Jackson as well. So it's going to be a new look Collingwood. But again, we've banked up enough wins where we can start doing this because it's a long season, and I'd rather lose games now than, up into August where finals are starting to happen and then momentum starts to slow. What it really comes down to is belief, though. Belief that we can win and belief that we can win with anyone that's out on the park. What we saw against Geelong was the good Collingwood and the bad, ugly Collingwood, where in that last quarter, Geelong just absolutely got on top of us. But for 2.5 quarters, we were just on top of Geelong. We won all the major stats, and it's just bad kicking is bad football. How many times do we have to say it? We hit the post in the first quarter, I think, twice. We don't take our opportunities going forward. We were smashing them in clearances, and they evened out goals from clearances. We weren't capitalising on our intercepts, and that which has been a big scoring point for us. So it's back to basics, back to the drawing board. We did look a little lethargic, and I don't know if that's because we've had a really hard start to the season with the draw and who we played, and we're giving it our all to get us into the position that we are in now. But expect a more hard-running Collingwood side, but also expect a Fremantle side. I've just seen footage of them training today. Mouth guards in, and they are just going in hard, tackling, getting their clearance numbers up. So expect a very, very hard tussle. And Optus Stadium, it's a hostile environment. We know it's a hostile environment. And I don't know if we're getting Fremantle at a good time or a bad time. You can let me know your thoughts down below. But I say that because if St Kilda, and this is no blight on St Kilda or anything like that. But if St Kilda can do what they did to Fremantle, there's no saying that we can't do the exact same thing. And St Kilda gave us the blueprint, and we should be able to replicate it and replicate it even better. What St Kilda were able to do was they were able to shut down Sarong and Brayshaw. Hayden Young has got a hamstring injury, so he won't play. Brayshaw and Sarong had, fewer than 20 disposals each. So if you can shut down their big playmakers who, you know, should be smashing it in the midfield. If you can hold off those guys, then the world is your oyster at Optus Stadium. St Kilda had 58 or 48 more contested possessions, so they were harder at the ball, and that's where our sort of pressure comes in, and that's what we're good at. That's our bread and butter, the pressure, the hardness at the ball. You add Ned Long into that side as well. That's going to be the way that we win. And look, I know the Geelong game was disappointing, but for the most part, we played scintillating football. We just weren't taking our chances. You convert 25% of the chances that we missed against Geelong, we're winning that game by 5 goals. You have to do the same to Fremantle because they will get you on the bounce, and because they're trying to bounce back from it, they're probably one of their worst losses in their recent history anyway. They're going to chuck the kitchen sink at us. They're going to come really hard at the start of the game, but hopefully they sort of teeter out with that pressure. We have to absorb that pressure and hit it harder. We can't let them get a fast start like Geelong did, because then you're playing catch-up football. I hate playing catch-up football, but the one thing that Fremantle could replicate that Geelong did really well was in the second half, they started playing kick and mark football, taking our running game away from us, taking our intercept marking and intercept running game away from us. So expect a little bit of that where they go to shutdown mode. Justin Longmuir loves playing loves playing sort of games, right? So expect a boring game from Fremantle if they do get the ball and they start playing that short kick, mark, kick, mark, kick, mark. It worked for the Giants. It worked for Geelong in that second half. So we need a plan to be able to stop that, whether that's pressure, pushing right up, and blocking that sort of ability for them to do that. Because what Geelong were doing was they were getting the ball right deep inside their attacking 50. So when we had to transition it out, we had to transition it from the goal line all the way up as if it was a kick out, but just with more pressure. So we can't afford to do that again. We need to get out to not only a 20-point lead like we did against Geelong, we need to get out to a 4 or 5 goal lead by half time if we're to sort of win this game. I don't want another close game, but I am so excited to see what a new look, I don't know why I'm pointing up that way, but what a new look Collingwood side can do without Steele, without Pendles. And this is where Nick Dacos needs to step up and take that midfield by the scruff of the neck. This is where, if Jordan De Goey plays, I don't know if he does play or not. It wasn't told that he wouldn't play. I dare say they do rest him, but if they're not going to rest him and they're going to get him to that fit to play and fit to perform, if they're going to keep him in the side, he needs to see what Danger done in that last quarter and say, why can't I do that? Jordan goes, 28, 29, in the prime of his career, he should be. I know he's had a short preseason. I know he's been injured, but he's played these last couple of games. He needs to just step up. He needs to step up, and I don't know if that sounds mean or not, but he needs to get back to that Jordan De Goey that we know, the Jordan De Goey that we love. And what a perfect game to do it when you've got your the two greatest ever Collingwood players to do it, sitting out. This is the game for Jordan De Goey and Nick Dacos to show us, and not just them, Ed Allen, Ned Long, to what life will look like. And I know it's sad, but what life will look like without Scott Pennebury, without Steele Sidebottom running that midfield. I'm actually very excited by the prospect of seeing what we can do. And I've calmed down a lot from that Geelong game, and as disappointing and heartbreaking as that was, I'm excited for this challenge against the Dockers. Now, my big calls and predictions. Charlie West debuts, kicks 2 goals on debut. That's my big call. I would love to absolutely see that. I doubt he gets like Pierce or anything like that, so he could hopefully run amok. I just want to see him take a really good big clunk like he has been doing in the VFL, like he's done in a lot of the match simulations and practices and training as well. But my big call is, I think Collingwood, despite having all of those outs, if that is to be believed, if that is going to happen, I reckon. I know someone said don't do any big scores anymore in my predictions, but I reckon it's a 30+ point win. I don't think Fremantle are able to bounce back and correct all of their mistakes from the week before, because there's papering over the cracks, but you can't paper over earthquakes, which is what Fremantle had for the last couple of weeks, especially against St Kilda. Boring football. So I think we can capitalise on the little rut that Fremantle are in. You win this game, you get that 9-day break, and you take on the Crows. But those are my thoughts for the Collingwood Fremantle game. Leave your thoughts down below. And until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets. And until next time, double shackers. I'll swoop you later.